Maybe Saiyin's list is just more consistent, right? It's a lot more 2-ofs, a lot less 1-ofs, so a lot less awkwardness in terms of his average draw. So we will see who ends up getting the first laugh here in this best of 5. As this will be the last match for for Division A, and then we'll be moving on to Division B to try and get some action and see who's going to be able to improve their spot for playoffs or relegation.
The light shall bring victory.
Division B players later on have some spicy decks as well, so I'm particularly looking forward to that. But let's get this one started. Saiyan versus Monsanto, the Troll Priest, I suppose. That's the way you could put it. Minion Priest, I think Lorinda called it. I don't know. Just Priest. That's what it is. Just Priest. It's a Priest deck. Video game Priest. There you go. Saying to play the survival druid.
Priest has a lot of really strong tools in this matchup, as we saw with the Soul Mirror and the Wave of Apathy play against the Druid in Eddie versus Muzzy. And then, gave Priest an opportunity to counter Lethal, which was a really nice checkmate play, if you will. But going into this game, it's a little bit different context. Monsanto doesn't have access to Zephyrus. Saiyan doesn't have... he doesn't really have necessarily the same kind of tools, top-end tools, to flood the board nearly as much. But he does have crazy ramp and what many peg to be as the nuts opening hand with the coin wild growth into overgrowth into guardian animals.
That's the juice right there. The juice. And Monsanto's left with just some priest cards and a wild pyromancer. Does that fight particularly well against the start from Druid? No. But he's got some time.
Ooh. Jeez. And Saiyan also runs, I believe, full beasts.
Yep. 2
Threshers, 2 Teacher's Pets, 2 Twilight Runners.
Yep. Which does mean that, he can't kind of curate that first guardian animals to be beast, more beast that he wants. It's a little more, it's evenly spread, so it's a little less predictable. Can't kind of plan around it, but it also means that your guardian animals are relevant for longer. Which when you draw both of them this early on in the game and you haven't drawn any beasts yet, it's looking like Saiyan's going to get full value out of both these guardian animals back to back, which is incredibly powerful.
I must consider.
Yeah, I'm starting to just see how these hands line up. Rather, I'm starting to fear a little bit for Monsanto, as I don't think he has a good answer to the guardian animals at a consistent clip. I do wonder how he wants to use his Grave Rune. If he wants to target the Sethic Veil Weaver, or if he wants to target the Wild Pyromancer.
This is cool.
It's cool, although if Saiyan pulls Threshers, which is more likely now,
he's
potentially disastrous.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at the painful grimace of Monsanto as he kind of is forced to just look on to witness all the hard work he's built up on his board get completely destroyed by Druid shenanigans.
Yeah. So Twilight Runner draw. Now he just has one of each beast still up in his deck. Even if Saiyan draws one of his beasts a natural draw on the next turn, his second guardian animal still gets full value.
I must consider.
So what would be insane is if Saiyan picked up Lightning Bloom next turn. You can go Lightning Bloom Survival of the Fittest into guardian animals. Ooh.
I mean, incidentally, that ends up being something that plays more into Monsanto's hand via Shadow Word Road. So it's kind of funny how that ends up being a different dynamic that people aren't used to, which is like, oh, now you're buffing all your 4 attack minions within range of Shadowward Ruin. Where part of the issue is that if Saiyan pulled 5 attack minions, he would have just pulled the trigger on the Shadowward Ruin, I think. Okay. Disarming any possible way for Saiyan, or not any possible way, but rather using all of his tools to try and disarm Saiyan's strength. Now, the second Guardian Animals is particularly intriguing to me because it is the turn before his opponent's Soul Mirror. So if he does pull the second Twilight Runner, it's harder for Monsanto to answer that right now versus if he waited a turn after, let's say he played Overflow this turn instead. He actually is more vulnerable to a Soul Mirror. Not to mention that he also would be potentially drawing the beast that he wants to avoid. And this is hard to deal with still. Monsanto's he is not really amused by the situation.
No. I mean, Draconic Studies, cool. You can get a dragon and can play Cleric of Skills and find a spell from his deck, but he already has Soul Mirror, just doesn't have the mana to play it. All right, Murzon. Yeah, that can be pretty decent. You know, your opponent has a turn when they play a lot of cards or draw a lot of cards. You can mirror that with Mirrors on. Ray's dead. He has Ironbeak Owl, Wild Pyro, and multiple Sethic Veil Weavers.
Quickly.
But doesn't seem like really anything that's gonna be super impactful to this game state. Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably just Draconic Studies to try and find something a little more. Shadowward Ruin just to stop the card draw, and with that, an Innervate picked up right after you see Shadowward Ruin with Survival and Fitness in hand. Woo!
Oh, the slow blink. Monsanto knows what's happening. Not to mention this is a 2-turn lethal setup.
Yep.
And I guess the good thing is Monsanto can Cabal Shadow Priest right now. Could also Murzon, but the Murzon doesn't guarantee his safety. In fact, if he Murzons, he's dead. Because oh no, actually no, he's not. Because he actually has the extra mana from the Innervate, so he could play Wave of Apathy. Hold on, TJ. Oh no, no, because then he can kill. He can still kill.
Let me change your mind.
You died a second.
No, you don't. You don't because you kill off the. Yeah, because you play survival with your own Murzond, and then you get the +5/+5. Or no, it's +4/+4. I'm an idiot.
+4/+4.
Yeah. Sorry, I for some reason thought you could kill the Thresh.
Ultimate Infestation. Some flashbacks.
Yeah. Sorry, I apologize. I thought he could kill the Thresher, just a brain fart, and then he would have a Murazond at 13/13 plus his Cleric of Scales, and then the following turn, if Saiyan built up the board, he could either Soul Mirror or still do the Cabal Shadow Priest play if there was available. Either way, I think this ends up being better since he doesn't want to die to anything stupid, like you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that this protects him against anything that he can, reasonably assume is in the hand, right? That's actually in the deck. Obviously, maybe not protect him against some combination of Nature Studies pickups, but you're not really going to play around that. He's going to clear the board. Wow, a lot of respect for it, but it makes sense, especially since that Thresher specifically doesn't have a lot of attack. That has a huge target on its back. Threat of Apotheosis.
Sets up 2-turn lethal. There's just a lot
Yep.
of reasons to explore to do this. In fact, he's actually resilient against a soul mirror as well. I believe he actually has lethal through a soul mirror.
Yep.
So really well done, and Saiyan thought through the possibilities that Monsanto could do. I am curious what Murzon introduces. I don't think it's enough to stop it, so this might be a situation where Monsanto has to hope that he either gets something really good off of Cobalt Spellkin, or he has to hope that Saiyan doesn't have that damage to go through a Soul Mirror, which he does.
Yeah.
I wonder.
I mean, it would have to be something extra. Well, I guess not. It could be like second survival plus an Iron Bark, which he plays magically in the deck, or something extra from Nature Studies. But played Nature Studies, held on to the card he got. I don't know how reasonable it is to assume that he picked up enough damage to kill you if you don't answer this 9 damage on the board. But at the moment, he does have a choice, and he's going to unleash on the Soul Mirror. Oh no, wait, it has Rush. He does have to do it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was thinking the broom as like, oh, if you're not getting in the battle
about the
cry,
rush of the
doesn't
broom
have rush,
too.
but the broom itself has rush.
Yep, that's right. It's really important. Yep, you are correct. Our mistake there. But now it still hasn't really solved the issue of how does he deal with the next wave of just a couple of threats here.
Yeah.
I guess Saiyan still doesn't have it guaranteed though. But this Nature Studies could help a lot, depending on what he ends up drawing. Because now Saiyan can just simply remove that Thresher and then play Twilight Runner. He can also play Bees this turn now. Bees with the Twilight Runner. Obviously, the most powerful card individually is Survival of the Fittest. Does he need another one? I think it's arguable he does not. And he's still presenting a 2-turn lethal. Well, not presenting it, he's still threatening it. And Monsanto's best way to counter is either setting up taunts or hope he can generate resources to stop it. More importantly, I would say more importantly, he also gave Monsanto fewer options off of like Murazan. If he played like the Broomstick and stuff again, I think he's also once again giving more options for Monsanto to play Murazan right back and do some kind of wacky stuff.
Probably has to be start with Cobalt. Well, I don't know. Because he still doesn't know that the damage is there, so maybe he's not too much worried about just straight up dying. So. Jeez! Oh no!
Oh! Murazan, why are you hitting yourself?
Well, Holy Nova!
I mean, he's still dead.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, valiant effort.
Yeah, you can see Monsanto disappointed. And he's exactly right. It was a valiant effort. I think there was a lot of pressure coming his way, and this kind of curve from Druid is one of the hardest to stop in the entire game of Hearthstone, and that's why some people decided to, instead of trying to mass equal resources, just try to be aggressive right back and pressure the Druid. And that seemed to be the primary way that people dealt with Druid for a while. But Saiyan gets that game 1 victory and gets Druid off the board, which, when you're bringing classes like Rogue, you're really hoping that maybe it can line up against a slower deck like Druid so you can punish them. So must be a nice pickup there for Saiyan to get that game 1 victory, which leads us, of course, to our next break. So we're going to take a few minutes, and when we come back, we're going to have game number 2 between Monsanto and justsaiyan here in Hearthstone Grandmasters. Stay tuned.
How functional are the fingers/toes?
I'd love to have 7 fingers on each hand because I play guitar, and then I would be a better guitar player.
I don't need that many fingers to play Hearthstone, but I like being on the front foot, and I feel like 7 toes would help with that.
All right, if I can get 2 thumbs on each hand, I'm gonna have to go with the hands. I think with 2 thumbs, you could really grip a lot of things and do a lot of things. Imagine playing video games, the amount of keys you can hit on the keyboard just seems more practical. I can't imagine what I would do with the 7th toe that would be useful at all.
I would rather have 7 toes. I think it's just not that aesthetically pleasing to have 7 fingers, so.
I would be less weirded out by having more fingers. I don't think, I don't know, feet are kind of weird to me and I don't want more toes, and that probably would affect my balance, so I would definitely rather have more fingers. Plus it would be way cooler to show people at like parties and stuff.
You know, I don't care about looking weird. The functionality though, of 2 thumbs, limitless, 4 thumbs in total, limitless potential.
Magic school of your legacy of glory shines. May they stand forevermore. Take your place where magic bends to your will, but you'll have to study hard. So many clubs and cults. Excuse me, I misspoke. Take your pick out in the yard. Test your brains or blow their spells for a double major honor roll. Just be sure to stay upstairs in the hall. Those troubles on to steal your soul.
They're kidding, of course.
Dear Magic School, we vow to stay right and true. All soloists, we love you. Hey, hey, USA!
Masters Tour Montreal Online is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network. T-Mobile.
Welcome back, everyone, to Hearthstone Grandmasters. We're currently in the middle of the series between Monsanto and Just Saiyan. Saiyan's able to get that game 1 victory with his survival druid able to overwhelm the priest. Now brings us to game number 2 with Druid checked off. We only have Demon Hunter and Priest. And I know, TJ, that you're not super high on classes like Demon Hunter, but against Monsanto's lineup, do you think it ends up performing okay?
I suppose okay, but I feel like Soul Demon Hunter as a whole just kind of performs okay. Doesn't have many great matchups, doesn't have many bad matchups. Against the Rogue, probably good. But against something like Druid that can make really big threats that are sometimes outside of your... that also have healing as well, that one's a little bit tougher. Saiyan is playing the Lorekeeper Polkelt version, which does have, kind of that X factor. But we won't be seeing it in this game. Instead, we're going to be seeing the Galakrond Priest Saiyan. Which, we call it Galakrond Priest, but it's very similar from the Priest we just saw from Monsanto. Just a couple differences. And those differences essentially being Galakrond and 2 disciples of Galakrond. Every other card is the same except for whatever those 3 slots were, which is additional removal. Which, when we've seen players make this decision of, well, how important is Galakrond in any other matchup outside of like mirrors and super late game value matchups, which the super late game value matchups are less and less common these days. So, why not just make your deck a little bit more lean, a little bit more consistent, a little bit more removal heavy? And that's the question that these players have been asking themselves. But deck still sometimes, Priest, I feel like it's just been hit or miss for me lately. I understand the deck performs and, probably the best control-esque deck in the game right now, but it does feel like you can get cornered. And I think that last game was one of those. As powerful as Priest is, it doesn't have those starts where you're just like, wow, how do you beat this start? It's just a Priest that tries to find ways to beat the other decks that have the, wow, how do you beat this start? And sometimes it just can't.
Bring victory.
So we shall see the other perspective of this matchup as Monsanto loads up Survival Druid with, I see Guardian Animals in the opening hand. Already like it.
I like it as well. I think that the Guardian Animals is really important and helps you obviously get started against Priest. And now that the tables have turned, maybe Monsanto can get that very early Guardian Animals played. It does seem like Monsanto is kind of dialing down and probably taking it a little bit more seriously compared to some of the other weeks where maybe Monsanto was a little bit more dressed up and a little bit more theatrical. Seems like it's all business for him at the moment, as he is currently 2-0 in the Swiss portion, or rather the round robin portion. Just saying, looking at his hand and thinking the Cleric of Scales and Cobalt Spill can have any business being kept here, and looks like he does think so, as it does have the ability for him to get some valuable spells and get tempo going on his side.
On wings of destruction.
Oh wow! All right, finds another one. It really start to get the ball rolling here.
So I think Draconic Studies makes the most sense because it helps fill out its curve. Looks like he agrees. The second Cleric of Scales is actually really flexible, and it might be a little bit of a controversial thing, but I think it actually might be better to not play the Cleric of Scales next turn, just so that he has
keep it for reactive.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think a 1/1 being proactive is like anything particularly special. You can see that he picked up reactive cards, which could all go in several different directions. Wave of Apathy is probably the most universally flexible card here, and one that you probably want to play the most against Druid. But, like, I think if it was me, like, if the Draconic Studies picked up, say, Fairy Dragon, I would have just slammed that immediately.
Yeah.
So, versus, I don't think there's a one-mana spell that I would want to play outside the second Draconic Studies.
Yeah. Maybe he just wants to play on curve as much as possible, but like the opportunity for tempo by picking up, like you said, cheap dragon, or maybe even a Dragonlight would change your play. Although I can't, it's hard to say. I can't really think of one. Fairy Dragon being kind of the only one, but that kind of stuff has a lot of merit, especially against Druid, where you can tempo them out of the game, or at least force them to play a little different than they would have. Force them off like the standard play of just, well, find ramp and then guardian animals. So
Right.
I see,
and I think
see
that
the merit in what you're talking about here.
Time waits for no one.
it does look actually quite tricky. I think you can convince me that Fungo Fortunes and just hitting ramp, like the overgrowth and ditching stuff is important, but if you lose like Ysera Unleashed, you are super sad. The Cleric of Scales does make sense to play on 2 if you anticipate playing the Apotheosis, because you anticipate Druid to potentially hero power the 1/1. And so now everything has worked out really nicely for Saiyan's start. Very quick play, turn 3, not much to think about. And already the pressure going the opposite direction. Monsanto does not look very happy with the state of his hand. No ramp.
Yeah. And still a turn away from being able to play Coin, Lightning Bloom, Guardian Animals. I don't know how many resources he wants to expend to deal with this 3/4, but especially considering
Right.
he'll probably just be able to sweep it up next turn with Guardian Animals. I don't know if he wants to commit anything to it.
Time waits for no one.
He doesn't want to commit anything to it. This could just be a hero power the 1/1 in past turn, and then next turn go into Lightning Bloom plus.
Do you want to hero power the 1/1 though? Like if you do end up pulling the Thresher, I guess you save a bunch of HP on it, which could be relevant.
That's also true.
Same with the pressure plays. He's playing so quick, giving Monsanto the fewest amount of seconds to think about his turn. And to, in all fairness, it doesn't seem like Saiyan has particularly complicated turns. At turn 1, play a 1-mana minion. Turn 2, plays 2 1-mana stuff. Turn 3, play the 3-mana card. Turn 4, play the Cobalt Spellkin. And now Monsanto has the opportunity to finally respond. He will overload, but it'll be worth it if he can pull out some really nice minions that can stick onto the board. One Twilight Runner pulled, really hoping that he gets a second one. He does find it.
At least to find some ramp though, because he's only going to 3 mana next turn, and his hand is still very expensive. And if he's able to deal with, the board in almost any way, and start to pull ahead if Monsanto doesn't start finding ways to accelerate his own game plan.
Consider.
But board's still problematic. Can use Wild Pyromancer here to clean up the Twilight Runner.
Yeah, Wild Pyromancer doesn't have a ton of value in this matchup, so you can totally just use it to deal 1 damage AoE. Finds Evasive Worm, which is very annoying for Druid, based off the way a lot of these stat lines work out. Saiyan has to kind of debate if he wants to heal or play this Disciple of Galakron. I guess he also... No, he can't actually renew here. Doesn't actually accomplish very much tempo-wise.
Yeah, I think you just heal.
Makes more sense.
Like the Disciple of Galakron, you're not killing the Lake Thresher, you just give Monsanto a way to kill the Wild Pyromancer without taking as much damage.
Yep, makes sense to me.
Trade Crystal Power or Lake Thresher Hero Power. Go. I don't know. No ramp. He's even next turn. He's still going to be a turn away from being able to play Overflow or these Iron Barks for free.
Right. Playing Iron Bark here actually puts a target onto the Thresher's back for Shadow Word Death, which he knows that Saiyan does play. And he, with 2 Cleric of Scales being played, you have to kind of assume Priest has a lot of removal ready to go. However, Shadow Word Death is a 1-of, so it's less likely that he has it.
Time waits for no one.
I think I still like the Iron Bark here because I think what the Iron Bark does is it puts significant amount of pressure onto the other side. And if they do play Shadow Word Death, that they aren't developing meaningful minions on the board. But I think I'm biased largely because I see the hands. And if Saiyan had to play Death, he wouldn't play another big minion. So I think it's easier for me to make that call right now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what you're saying, right? Like having the Iron Barks later is like sometimes even more impactful, or a lot of times more impactful because you get to play for 0.
Yeah. Monsanto was playing the double exotic mount seller version of the deck too, so I feel like especially with the way his hand is, he kind of needs to, I don't know, have things to activate bigger boards since he's not really getting a crazy fast start, not ahead on board. In fact, he's behind on board now with this Face Worm play. Saiyan picks up a Flesh Giant from the Invoke on the Disciple of Galakron. Whew. I mean, it's still incredibly expensive, but, you know, a couple renews can really change that. Effectively playing the renews for free if he wants to develop a Flesh Giant. So I thought that was a weak turn here. We might be looking at a potential for a Saiyan to really pull ahead on board and start to pressure Monsanto. Not even give him much time. Which is, you know, it can sometimes be one of the weaknesses of Priest. Sure, you can react to what your opponent's doing all day long, but, you know, if you're not actually killing them, you give them so much time to get back in the game. So the more you can, you know, actively pressure and try and end before they can reach these, you know, crazy powerful turns.
Yeah, you know, I wasn't really super excited about the Flesh Giant, but in hindsight, I actually really think that this is one of those minions that might end up becoming what puts Priest over the top. If they're able to get a decisive tempo swing and then establish this Flesh Giant,
yeah,
that might be too much. Because I was thinking about like just how you play it proactively. Maybe if you just play as a swing turn, ends up being good enough there. Pretty tempting for Saiyan to maybe go fishing to start things off. He could play Renew and then see if he could find some way to potentially deal with that Twilight Runner. A couple ways you can get it through Master Spell or Shadow Word Ruin, but Shadow Word Ruin, of course, does the same thing as Master Spell, except worse.
I must consider.
Because you destroy your own 5/3 and you'll get to draw a card.
You also do something like Onyx Mage Scribe Wave of Apathy.
Okay.
If he renews, you get 2 spells, and the renew replaces itself, so you'd overdraw your next card unless you pick up a 0 mana spell. Oh, well, there's the Master Spell, but no mana left.
Do not lose these.
But I guess he's willing to take an overdraw just because it's hard to think of a specific card in his deck that he would be upset at overdrawing. Maybe Soulmere would be a big one.
Right.
But the 4/9 on board actually has a lot of value.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is harder for Monsanto to deal without his second copy of Guardian Animals. But still has some options here with the Broomstick. Can also draw to see what he gets first. And Druid, when they just play a lot more straight up, just seems pretty mediocre, right? Like, Teacher's Pet isn't a particularly impressive card. It's just, it's better when you get it for free and you get 2 of them.
Yeah.
Well, not really for free. You pay 7, but you get 2 of them. As opposed to 5 and you only get 1. And it costs you a card from your hand versus the Guardian Animals itself.
My hand is too full.
Okay. Example of Galcon. Who cares? Ah.
Well, so the second Disciple means that he can't invoke the Galakron.
Yeah, I mean, he still can.
Yeah, he finds
raised
time
it
rape or something like that.
Yeah, but
Unsleeping Soul, 4 mana, 4/9. Not bad. And Saiyan playing the tempo line here, which makes sense. He's kind of sensed some weakness in Monsanto's game plan, and so pressing in for maximum board stats. Really good idea.
also just having a teacher's pet loaded up into this Mind Flayer card is pretty huge because it could, offer some of his other minions protection if he gets that taunt that comes out of it. And now Monsanto, Lake Thresher picked up, which means he has a Guardian Animals in deck and no more Beasts in deck. So that's going to be a dead draw. I mean, I'm looking at the cards left in Monsanto's deck, and it's just a lot. It's such an awkward pan out, right? He has both of his Overgrowths, Wild Growth, both of his Innervates, and a Lightning Bloom, all in his bottom 12. So half of his bottom 12 is just ramp. It's just missed ramp. And he has a dead Guardian Animals, and then all of his big threats. His Ysera, his Exotic Mount Sellers, and his Survival of the Fittest.
Time waits for no one.
So it's just been this game has just had a really weird pan out. Oh, now he's got an Iron Bark in there. Or will have an Iron Bark in there, most likely. As long as this, Educated Elk gets straight in. Oh, 2 Iron Barks!
Well, he does have the Mass Spell to stop
That's
the
true.
Iron Bark's energy.
That's true. But he did need to dump his hand because he kind of has to overflow.
Trying to look at to see if, King Luca came out here, so there's a lot of power going the opposite way, and now Saiyan has the Cabal Shadow Priest ready to go.
I wonder.
Which means that he's going to just be able to steal his opponent's minions.
Let me change your mind.
Heal up his own board and present 2-turn lethal. Monsanto, if he plays Overflow, ends up helping his opponent's board. This is looking very bad, and I think he has to find a way to stabilize here. Speaker Gidra does give him
Nature speaks through us.
a little bit of fight back onto this board. It's not great when you have to germinate it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if he wants to germinate it. I was thinking maybe you need to dig for something, but he can't even dig because Overgrowth he's at 9 mana. So just completely. Oh, it's just so awkward.
I mean, germination lets him push past 2 of these minions.
Yeah.
Sets up a taunt.
For no one.
Seems quite dead to me.
He's not exactly dead, but he can be dead if Saiyan finds Shadow Madness. Because then Speaker Gidra gets taken, then he gets to pump it up with the Spell Burst. Which would be pretty swag, actually, to use Speaker Gidra Spell Burst to kill the Druid. Oh, is that lethal?
The Wild Pyromancer makes it awkward, but yes, it'll be 7, 11, and then
Master Spell or Forbidden
That's
Words.
enough.
Wow, 2-0 for Saiyan. Nice little lethal puzzle there that wasn't exactly guaranteed, but able to figure it out himself as he looked for an opportunity to kill. 2-0 lead right now for Saiyan, and Monsanto has the Demon Hunter to try and sweep up if he can. Not exactly easy, but we have seen Demon Hunter sometimes struggle in the past. You look at last weekend, and there was moments where Demon Hunter looked like a Achilles heel, even though it seemed to be a really consistent performer. So we shall see if Saiyan's able to close this out 3-0. That would be our second sweep of the day.
Yeah, I do feel like also players have gotten better at playing the Soul Demon Hunter. Not saying it's like this, crazy, intricate, particularly difficult deck, but there are some things that you do need to realize about the deck. Whereas it's you have to realize when you just need to ignore the board and hope you're going to just sweep it up later, keep pushing base damage, or when you will respect the board. Because you know that maybe pushing base damage early on is not part of your win condition, and waiting for those big bursts of damage in the mid to late game is your win condition. So, like, those two things are important. But I mean, given 3 chances against Druid, Rogue, and Priest,
This ends now.
especially the Rogue, I feel like Saiyan should be in a really good spot to win this series. I don't know if I see Monsanto winning 3 games in a row against the Soul Demon.
Well, we're going into what could be the final game of this series, as this is a matchup that I think Demon Hunter is happier about. Kind of like what you said. Part of what makes Demon Hunter good is that there's not too much volatility into it. Outside of like a couple of fringe case cards like Wand Maker and sometimes Volpera Scoundrel, some of those older lists, Demon Hunter pretty much plays with just the cards in their deck, which is not something that you can actually say about most Hearthstone decks right now. And that's what makes it really consistent, because it tends to play with just the cards that they have, and all of them are very honed and focused on killing their opponent within a specific power curve. And that's actually kind of what made Demon Hunter so fearsome in Ashes of Outland. It was like a no RNG deck, essentially, when it first came out. It was just like so powerful at what it did. And then slowly, after like wave and wave of nerfs, it finally got put into place. And now Demon Hunter currently in its current form is still kind of in a similar spot. But does seem entirely more manageable. That doesn't just like fall into auto wins all the time by like turn 6.
Yeah. The mirror matchup is still just as hard to watch, though. Speaking of waves, though, Dan,
I grow.
Monsanto's got a lot of them. Not necessarily the kind of
3
start
waves
that
of
you-
apathy.
Yeah, not necessarily the kind of start that you want. Not saying Wave of Apathy is like the most important card in the matchup, because Demon Hunter's really not playing that many minions that you steal and you win the game. The Cabal Acolyte, like the 2/4 body, is probably the most important part of it in this matchup, because it has taunt, it blocks some base damage. But the healing, actually, Radiance can be pretty decent, just to provide you with some additional healing to buy yourself some time. But I feel like the biggest thing is tempo. You do need to kind of pressure the Demon Hunter. You can't let them do whatever they want, because then that's when they start assembling those huge bursts of damage. And, you just don't have enough time to heal it back up, or at least, keep tempo, keep the board while gaining back the health that the Demon Hunter is able to do.
I mean, right now it looks like Demon Hunter is not playing tempo-oriented style whatsoever. Almost to the point where I kind of wonder if Saiyan wants to start thinking about Lore Keeper Polkit, or Polkelt, and consider what his pan-out will be. If he does it, next turn he draws Sociologist, and on 6 he will draw Skull of Gul'dan.
Mhm.
But he would have hand space issues, so you'd have to like dump. But the nice thing about Skull of Gul'dan is that you will like hit your power cards if you play them. You would hit, well, obviously the other Skull, but then Lapidaries become a lot cheaper. And so I'm curious, right? I'm curious about what that means. The issue too is that if he does end up playing this the Lord Keeper Polkit and drawing the Sociologist, he draws it first, has to kind of wait for a couple of cards to get shuffled in, or cards to get played so that Soul Fragments get shuffled in, and then we'll be able to play the Sociologist. But something that I'm always thinking about in the back of my mind, like, is this a game where I just kind of have to start playing Lord Keeper in order to find a way to combo? Because clearly the early power curve of, 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop Marrow Slicer is not really working out here.
Yeah, it was a little bit more awkward than that. The problem that I see with the Lord Keeper is that, kind of what you mentioned, in order to play the Sociologist, you do need Soul Fragment shuffled, which then shuffles the deck, which then, kind of defeats the purpose of playing Lord Keeper outside of it being a 4/5. And I do feel like, because you're given the time and because you are incentivized to kind of set up these big burst turns, utilizing the cards that you have, and then once you're kind of lower on resources or you need to find the game-ending damage, then you drop the Polk Out and, start just like guaranteeing Soul Shard Lapidaries, Skulls, that type of thing. So we'll see. Marrow Slicer picked up. That's decent. But again, no significant damage being pushed, no significant efforts from Saiyan to kind of advance this game plan. Monsanto's just kind of out of proactive stuff, though. He only has Wild Pyromancer as a minion left in his hand. So, also he's staring incredibly deeply directly into my soul. And he has been for going on 5 minutes now. It's incredibly disturbing.
What? That's one way. That's one emotion you can feel, TJ. I feel seen.
I feel seen for the first time in a long time. I feel like he gets me.
Thank you, Base Monster. All right. Nothing really to do here from Monsanto's side. Saiyan setting up potential power turns. He's got the Soul Shear. He got a board clear this turn if he desires it. I don't know if it's the time to necessarily play the Polk Out, but now does feel like a good opportunity, especially as we start going into the turns where you can immediately play whatever card that you have.
Yep.
I think I'm
I like
also
this
okay
because-
not swinging here. Okay.
Oh yeah, no swing.
Go ahead, TJ.
Oh well, I almost forgot. Oh, okay, yeah. So he's got enough Soul Fragments in his deck now, to where he doesn't need to play any more Soul Fragment generation cards, which will reshuffle the deck and defeat the purpose of the Polk Out. He's got enough to play the 2 Soul Shard Lapidaries because he played the Marrow Slicer last turn. And then he also has the Soul Shear, so if he ever wants to interrupt the Polk Out chain of drawing his cards in order, he would be able to if he feels like he needs something extra. Like if he's like, oh man, I really need the second Twin Slice here because I'm running out of time. I need to push that damage. So I'm going to Soul Shear, reshuffle my deck, and give myself a chance to draw Twin Slice. So I feel like this is good timing. Also just the fact that, he can play the big threat next turn of the Sociologist Militia. Only 3 Soul Fragments, so it wouldn't be, huge, but still significant.
I grow impatient.
Yeah, I think that since we're coming into the Soul Mirror turn here, I don't like it nearly as much, but it is off-curve Soul Mirror, which is kind of interesting, I guess. Part of me feels like we can get Monsanto to play Soul Mirror in different ways. Like, let's say you just play Gladepan Adept, like just in this spot, and then like your opponent will feel like they want to Soul Mirror your board because you presented like a big enough threat here. Another Twin Slice. Okay. I mean, we put your opponent on 21. Then you have 4 plus another 8 in hand, so you have 12 to follow up, guaranteed. And if your board sticks, you actually kill him next turn. This is the Demon Hunter deck, TJ.
Yeah, you just assemble this huge combination of damage. I mean, you don't always get Twin Slice from the Wand Maker, but hey, it happens enough.
I must consider.
Probably just Lazul's scheme. Thought still can find some things though,
I must
like Aldraki
consider.
Warblades, but I don't think without support board is significant enough healing to pick Thoughtsteel for, because it's also expensive. 2 mana for Thoughtsteel, 3 mana for Aldraki, and that's if you hit it. Everything else in the deck seems not super good. So yeah, the Lazul scheme is something that he can just take advantage of pretty quickly. And we'll have to use this Soul Mirror. Which means he's not dead yet.
Right, which means that this is exactly the way Stan had mapped it out. I still think we have opportunity to hold on to the Sociologist Militia and use the Skull of Gul'dan, because that means that the Lapidaries now guarantee the discount for the following turn, which gives you 10 damage from hand for 4 mana. Then for 4 more mana, you add additional 8. Plus a weapon swing would be 22, which by my count, TJ would be lethal.
Yeah.
So I think if I'm saying, I still don't think we can really pull the trigger on things like Soulshear, but I am entertaining the idea of Skull of Gul'dan this turn. I also think that playing Sociologist and just going face is totally fine as well, given that it's very nice on the mana. It's just that I don't think you can guarantee kill him next turn if your opponent finds a way to board wipe. But this is still problematic to deal, even just with the few amount of rushers that he has at the moment. And I think I would end up swinging this turn, because I don't want to miss the 1 damage. Ooh! Coin into the Twin Slice. Alright. Spicy.
What's nice hero power? Okay,
I
so Soul
think-
Shard Lapidary plus the 6 from hand, that's 11 from hand, 12 from hand with the hero power? It's not a 2-turn.
Yeah, if the board doesn't get cleared, but if Wave of Apathy comes out... Oh, this Cobalt Acolyte actually is interesting as well.
I must consider.
Oh, you know, the coin also might be a dump to stop Sociologist. Or sorry, Mindrender Alucia from potentially...
Then he would have played Second Slice. Well, right? I don't know.
Well, I think maybe he was counting the idea that Mindrender Alucia could swap hands and he could play like Twin Slice, Twin Slice, like Blade Dance. Like, Sand's hand's actually really good to destroy his own board.
Not too quickly.
3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, actually, I think it would have been the same because, like you said, he would have access to 9 mana crystals, so he would have been able to clear either way. All right, full board clear wipe from Monsanto. Well done.
Yeah. Well, you know, you were kind of talking about the Sociologist Militia last turn. The one reason why I didn't want to play it was because when are you ever going to activate Skull? You know what your next draws are. And playing that Twin Slice on the far left means that you'll never be able to. You won't be able to play it until you draw both Soul Shards, Blade Bound, and the Marrow Slicer. Unless you want to play from the other side. But, I mean, honestly, it doesn't really matter at this point because Saiyan knows just going to be drawing so much damage. He's going to put it down to 7. Next turn, he draws Soul Shard Lapidary. The turn after that, he draws Soul Shard Lapidary. The turn after that, he draws Marrow Slicer. Has Kane's Sun Fury in hand.
Your mind is not your own.
Right, and I think this is lethal because Monsanto doesn't know about the Kane's Sun Fury.
Yep.
So he's really hoping there's no way to get past it. But Kane's Sun Fury plus the Lapidary plus the hero power, I believe, is 9. And that is a 3-0 in favor of Just Saying. And that's going to be our third series in the books. Back-to-back sweeps. Sweep by No Hand, sweep by Just Saying. As the Priest falls yet again. And Demon Hunter, you know, having a different performance as we saw from the previous series. Seemed like it definitely got the job done there. Because in the previous series, it looked like it just won the mirror, right? And then it struggled for the rest of the series.
Yeah. Yep. But definitely a well-mapped game, I'd say, from Saiyan.